Hello, everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to look at the RFP directions and cover a strategy to make sure that you follow all details. Now, as you know, I've mentioned before that lack of following directions is one of the main reasons why most proposals fail or are not funded. So this lecture is critically important to help you to understand how to make sure that you follow all of the instructions in the RFP. First, I suggest that you read the RFP several times. Now, there are three things that I do when I am preparing to review a potential grant application. I print the RFP, and I use low-quality paper, and I do not use my color ink. So I print the RFP, and then I place the application or the request for a proposal or request for application in a binder. I place it in a binder to help with organization, and then it helps you to be able to refer back to the RFP as you're writing your proposal. And I also use divider tabs. Sometimes these are color-coded, but I always include a table of contents as well. And this even enhances your organization more, and it helps you to become more familiar with the instructions. Another tip is that you can copy and paste the entire request for a proposal into a Word document. Now, you don't have to really do the entire proposal. You could just do the narrative and all of the instructions that are required in the proposal. So you want to do that in a Word document and then remove everything except your headings and your directions. So if something isn't relevant, you can remove it. And basically what I am suggesting is that you use that document as the beginning of your proposal so that you're not having to retype all of the headings and directions. For example, look at the abstract directions section. If you leave that information there, you will be able to type your abstract directly underneath that section. But then after you type it, you want to remember to remove their directions because, of course, you do not want to send your proposal in with their directions. So let me repeat that. Look at Section D under Application Guidelines for Fiscal Year 2015. This is simply a project application that I found on the Internet, and it's actually one that is due sometime in 2015. So Section D, again, for abstract, you are to provide a brief description of the project. Please be concise and clear. If the project is funded, the abstract will be posted on the WERC website. It's the work website. I'm assuming that that's the name of the organization's website. So that gives you some instructions on how to type your abstract. Now let me just go back to the beginning of the application guidelines. The first thing that you have to have in your proposal, if you are applying for this particular application, this grant, you have to have your project title, specific name of the project. You have to have your length of project. The typical award is for 2 to 3 years. The maximum length is 5 years. So based on your particular purpose, you have to list the length of the project. And then Section C, your cost. You have to list your estimated overall project cost. And, of course, there's additional information there. But I'm simply going over each one of these alphabet sections to give you a better understanding of how you are to start your proposal. And mind you, each grant proposal, each application that you apply for will have different guidelines. Going on down to Section E, project narrative should only be 4 pages. That's your page limit. So you have to know your page limits for each section. And under project narrative, the funder is telling you exactly what you should include in that section. You should not include anything other than what they have asked you to do. They want you to provide a clear description and anticipated impact of the project, including the following where appropriate: 1, 2, 3, and 4. My suggestion is that when you respond to an application, that you use the headings and subheadings precisely as they are listed in the application. They will also want a program of work, 3 pages, no more than 3 pages. You are to describe under the program of work your statement of need, goals and objectives, and so forth. Another example is to create a separate document for each section and then place everything together later on if you desire. So, in other words, you will have a document for the project title, maybe the length of project, and your cost, and save that. Then you write the abstract and save it as abstract. Then you write your project narrative. This is just for, sometimes it's easier for new grant writers to write it in that way. On the next page, eligibility information. Now, you want to make sure that your organization is eligible. And each application will list who the eligible applicants are. Your cost sharing. Can your agency meet the cost sharing matching requirement? If not, do not apply. Cost sharing is simply a contribution. Some grant applications do not require a contribution. Others require a contribution. And each one, if they require a cost-sharing or matching contribution, they will explain what that contribution percentage is, and they will also explain whether or not it has to be cash or in-kind contributions. And we'll talk more about that later on in the course. The application submission information is also included in the application. And if you decide to proceed with writing a proposal for that particular agency, then you must know what their requirements are for submitting the application. In this particular one, you go to the next page, they indicate that hard copies of the application package are available upon request, and you can request a hard copy. Section B, content and form of application submission. They tell you exactly what the instructions are. You are to write within your proposal a narrative proposal and a program of work, including appendices. Requirements for a narrative proposal is that The proposal should be formatted to print on an 8.5 by 11-inch plain paper with 1-inch side margins. A page is one side of a single-space type page. In other words, do not type on the front and the back, and do not type double spacing. Use 12-point font Times New Roman or larger. You are submit all parts of the application at one time. You cannot submit it by fax. And each submittal must include a separate PDF or Word files and so forth and so on. And finally, as far as the application is concerned, most applications now will include a scoring rubric. This particular criteria has a possible 100 total points. And you can see that you are awarded 20 points for aligning it with goals and objectives of this request for proposal. So if you do everything in this section, give them all of the information, it's well written, and all of your sources are cited, and your goals and objectives are smart, we'll talk about that later on, then you should be awarded 20 points for that section. And then there are 30 points for technical approach, deliverables, and timeline. So this is just an example of what a potential RFP, what the directions will look like, and a strategy to make sure that you are able to follow all of the details in the application. I've included this also as a downloadable file so that you can review this information later on. And I will see you in the next lecture.